All right, today we are working on 1.2, order of operations, otherwise known as PEMDAS. We have P. What's P stand for? Parentheses. And so we do have some different kinds of grouping symbols. We have the regular parentheses, we have the squiggly bracket, and we also have the square bracket. You can see those on a laptop keyboard. So you have three different kinds of parentheses. They're grouping symbols. They group numbers together. There are other grouping symbols. Can you think of any other symbols that we have in mathematics that would group numbers together? We have the absolute value. The absolute value will group numbers together. A square root, I can have all kinds of variables and numbers underneath a square root. And the last one that you're probably most familiar with would be a division bar. When you are inside, so once you know you're starting inside the parenthesis, you're just going to start all over again. Are there any parentheses in the parenthesis? Are there any exponents inside the parenthesis? Inside the parentheses, follow the order of operation. What does E stand for? Exponents. Everything has an opposite, and the opposite of an exponent is called a root. You will not see too much of roots in Algebra 1, but you will definitely see them in Algebra 2. It's about having fractional exponents. You will see square roots. That's about the only root that you're going to see. So the opposite of x squared is a square root. And exponents, just like to give an example, 2 to the third. Then we have multiply and divide. In the same step, it has a condition. How do I know which one to do first? Is it always multiplying first? Exactly, that's what the condition is. The condition says that I have to work from left to right, whichever one occurs first. Always multiply and divide left to right, whichever occurs first. And that would also be true for adding and subtracting. That would be left to right. Add and subtract, left to right, whichever one occurs first. This is why I stopped doing summer homework, because I knew that we were going to be going over some of this stuff. So that's why I decided, let's just get into it. All right, here we go with example 1. Where is the first place that I would start on example 1? 15 minus 5 squared divided by 2 plus 3. Where do we start on example 1? Yes, in the parentheses. Exponents would be next. 15 minus, what is 5 squared? Very good. 5 times 5 is 25. Ian, what's the next step? Good. 15 minus 25 divided by 5 is one way to look at it. 15 minus 25 divided by 5. But as we go on and we get into integers, I would have said negative 25 divided by 5 is a negative 5. Always keeping your signs in front of the term. And then the last one be just to subtract. 15 minus 5 is 10. A few more examples, and then you can get started on your work. Again, pretty basic on A. You know that you're starting in parentheses. 13 minus 8 is 5, and then 7 times 5 is 35. You probably already have the answer without showing any work. You're like, okay, I'm starting in parentheses. 3 squared is 9, plus 1 is 10, and 24 minus 10 is 14. Fine, put down 14. I really honestly don't have problems with when the problems are so simple like this. I don't have a problem with that at all. It's only when things get more difficult and then students don't realize that they need to show themselves something to be successful. But on a baby problem like this, problem C is a good example of what it means to be a parenthesis within a parenthesis. So I start by looking, okay, there's parentheses on C. That means I'm looking at the outside one. That's where I'm going to start. I'm not going to multiply anything. I'm going to start with the parenthesis. Then that's what it meant when it said, inside the parenthesis, follow the order of operations. So inside the parenthesis, I would start all over again and say, are there any parentheses in the parenthesis? And yes, there is. That is where I would start. We have 2 times 30 minus 21. And then 2 times 9. And then finishing that. Okay, moving on to example 3. The first thing that I'm going to do is just, how do I evaluate this expression? What do? We substitute in x is 4. That's what 1.1 was about, evaluating expressions. So we have 9. What's going on between 9 and the x? I need to make sure, and really we like to use parentheses to show multiplication. You can use the dot if you want to. It's really your preference. So I just like to train my Algebra 1 students to start thinking like that. And then in the denominator, we have 3 times, now I'm putting a parenthesis within a parenthesis. Try not to use the same type of parenthesis. That's why we have different ones. I would switch to a square one and say 4 plus 2. Or I could have just put 4 plus 2 in there. I didn't have to actually use a parenthesis. But if you are having parentheses within parentheses, don't use the same kind. It gets confusing when the problems will get more difficult. We have 9 times 4 is 36. I'm going to take care of the numerator. I'm going to clean up the denominator a little bit more. 3 times 6, 4 plus 2. And then 36, 18 in the denominator. How do I say this problem? What's it say? It says 36 divided by 18. Well, this 36 divided by 18